A convicted Islamist terrorist is trying to sue a pub because its name offends him. Khalid Bakr wants the Saracen's Head Inn in Amersham to change its name. He says, while walking through the area, I was shocked and deeply offended by what I saw. I saw pub signage depicting a brown-skinned, bearded Arab/Turk male with a turban and captioned the Saracen's Head. This instilled worry and fear in me, since it was clearly xenophobic, racist and inciting violence to certain people. I immediately complained to the pub and requested the signage be removed. Well, he knows a thing or two about instilling worry and fear into people, because in 2018 he was sentenced to 4 years and 8 months in prison for disseminating terrorist publications. Police said that Bakr from East London had also radicalised an impressionable teenager who then helped him distribute the material, which apparently included jihadi leaflets. He's been released from prison, so Bakr's back out, and he wants 1,850 quid from the pub. And if he's successful, he's reportedly going to try it on with at least 30 other pubs that have the same name. This is just the latest example of people with a radical track record trying to get British society to bend to their will. Now, this poor landlord at the pub is understandably quite worried for his safety.
I was asked to take a moment to Google him, and it was at that point I realised, like you rightly said, he is a convicted terrorist.
This is deeply concerning for many, many people, not just for you, your financial stability, but also your safety.
Of course.
The concern I have is that I suspect that the pub owners, Green King, will probably change the name. A name that, according to the landlord anyway, has stood for about 500 years. They've got form for doing this. They changed the name of their pub, the Magic Midget, named the MG Midget Sports Car. It's named after the MG Midget Sports Car, because a lecturer at Liverpool Hope University said that that was disablist hate speech. They also changed the name of, and excuse my language here, but the Black Bitch pub in West Lothian, which was named after a local greyhound dog because someone who wasn't even from the area kicked off. They also renamed 3 pubs called the Black Boy, despite it being a reference to the nickname King Charles II's mother gave to him. It is obviously hilarious that a man with an Islamist terror conviction is suing a pub, but there is a serious point here. This is how people are scared into silence. Do Green King or the pub landlord want the heat? Probably not, and fair enough. Did the teachers at Batley Grammar School want the heat when a mob turned up outside making all kinds of threats because a teacher there allegedly showed a picture of the Prophet Muhammad to some kids?
The incident from Monday, 22nd of March, must also be investigated from a criminal perspective,
yes,
given that it was a clear attempt to stir up religious hatred. We also use this opportunity to call upon the entire British Muslim community to review the materials being taught in their children's schools.
Well, the teacher in question there is reportedly in hiding and probably will be for the rest of his life. I mean, did the mother of an autistic child who accidentally scuffed a copy of the Quran want to have to go to the local Islamic centre and beg for forgiveness from the elders? Well, no, probably not. The RAF apparently changed the name of their Crusaders squadron because they had a complaint that it might offend Muslims. Well, we've had a little taste of it here at GB News as well, with the recent report from a group affiliated with the Muslim Council of Britain, which accused us of all sorts of things. That was probably designed to stop us reporting, I imagine, by the way, stuff like this, right? But fundamentally, the reason why the likes of Khalid Bakr try it on is because we've been such a soft touch. Intimidation, legal threats, the fear of being labelled racist, people have caved in, and it's set a precedent. But honestly, if a court of law rules that a pub has to change its name and pay compensation to a convicted terrorist because he's offended by something, then frankly, we might as well all pack our bags and get out of here, because it means the country's gone, doesn't it? Let's get the thoughts of our panel this evening. We've got journalist and broadcaster Carol Malone. We have commentator and writer Benjamin Butterworth. We also have the associate editor of the Daily Express. It is Sam Lister. Carol, is this a sign, do you think, that potentially certain aspects of multiculturalism and integration have failed?
Not aspects, I think all of it. I think integration has totally and utterly failed. We were having this conversation 7 or 8 years ago when Angela Merkel, no, farther than that, 2010, she said it had utterly failed. So did Sarkozy. So did David Cameron. He even said it was partly responsible for a lot of terrorism. So, you know, but we couldn't have that conversation now because we can't offend those communities. You know, integration has failed because we have allowed people from different cultures and different countries to come into this country and live parallel lives within it. We have allowed them to live separate lives. We have allowed them, people from different cultures to come here and make us change our way of life. You know, things like, you know, there are many things that I offend me from this particular culture. The fact that we have to live with Sharia law in this country, which reduces women to third-class citizens. The fact we have Islamic schools, which completely separates boys and girls and doesn't teach girls, doesn't educate them in proper ways. All of those things grossly offend me. Now, why are we changing our culture, our community, to accommodate one particular culture? It never ceases to amaze me. And I think, you know, how dare anyone come here? And we can't even now say we're a patriot because it might offend religion.
Well, look, there's a lot for you to come back to there, Benjamin, so have at it.
Well, I mean, the point about segregated religious schools, I don't think we should have religious schools at all. But I'm afraid, you know, you have Orthodox Jewish schools that are as extreme as some of the Islamic schools.
The girls don't get taught the same educational stuff as the lads.
Yeah, you have that, regrettably, in a few Orthodox Jewish schools. Catholic schools have long refused to teach LGBT education, and governments have allowed that to remain the case. The idea that this means, because I mean, this guy's clearly an idiot, he's a convicted terrorist, and his claim is nonsense. If he wanted attention, well, he's got it. He's not going to get the $2,000 he wants, I suspect.
He might.
I suspect it won't get anywhere. Not a chance. You know, it's not racist. It's just a plea for attention. But I think what might be racist is to say that because there's one extremist and he's been convicted, that means multiculturalism has failed. You know, there are many Muslims in this country, the vast majority, who contribute to this country. Many of them have made it to the top of government in recent years. That is an example of multiculturalism. Some of the richest people in this country aren't from here. I think as an Indian family is the richest. You know, on my recent travels, I met an Indian man who had grown up in relative poverty in India, and he got a scholarship to a top uni in Britain, and he now lives in London. And he said to me that the one thing that makes Britain so extraordinary is that as an Indian with an Indian accent, there's nowhere in the world where he could go and turn up to work and his work be what he's judged on. And that is because Britain is multicultural, and we should be proud of that.
OK, another point to maybe make here, though, Sam, is that perhaps that's because we are actually a very, very tolerant country, and maybe in certain cases we've been a little bit too tolerant, bordering, well, no, I would argue not bordering, just being a pushover. And if this chap feels like he can try it on, that's probably because there's a long track record of people trying it on and winning.
Yeah, we are a tolerant nation, and that's why people want to move here. You know, we are a nation who accepts all faiths and none. I think Kemi Badenoch actually expresses it very well when she talks about how she wants to see a multi-ethnic country rather than a multicultural country, a country where actually you are embracing Britain, you are patriotic, you believe in Britain as a concept, rather than segregation in communities. Nobody wants to see that. And I think on the soft touch point, actually what this really illustrates is, you know, we have a legal system that is absolutely on the brink of collapse. We have women who have been raped who can't get justice. We have essentially shoplifting is you know, decriminalising this country, and yet we have people like this blocking up the system with spurious claims, and it's just insane. It says to people at home, you know, actually serious criminals can get away with not being up before the legal system, and then these spurious claims will be given credence.
I was going to say, this guy Backwell, you know, I listened to the pub landlord today talking about this. He says this guy's never been in his pub. He said he's never seen the bloke. The bloke says he's been in 4 times, and the landlord said no, he hasn't. He said what he's done. He said he's now heard that this guy is targeting other pubs with the name Saracen in the thing, and he's saying he's doing it like a spread bet, because if he has to go with 10 of them, he might get $4,000 added 2 of them. So that he's trying it on. So this is not about religion. This is not about being offended. This is about making money, and we should actually just tell him to get lost. Who cares if he's offended? I mean, even if he is generally offended, I don't care. We should not have to change our culture. And if he even knew what the name Saracen meant, it actually refers to Saladin, who was a crusader, and it was a way people were honouring him, paying homage to him by calling him.
The thing I will say is there appears to be a bit of discrepancy online as to whether or not this guy is going to target other pubs, etc.
There has been. It's been reported that he has.
In some reports, it's just that he has. In others, maybe not. But we wait and see.
But if you can do it online this easy, Patrick, if you can take a case to court online, it's not right.
But Benjamin, I would just say, does this not highlight, because there's a track record of people caving into stuff. Now, whether it's this, which has got, I would argue, maybe another aspect rolled up to it, this guy's a convicted extremist, etc.
Yes.
Or whether it's things like pubs like the Black Boy Inn or whatever, changing the name, road signs being changed, people just giving in, because the worst thing that you could possibly ever be conceived of, pretty much, in Britain now is to be, even accidentally, racially insensitive.
Well, first of all, on Sam's point, if only he'd just nicked the sign, he would have got rid of it and there'd have been no consequences. That would have saved the whole Ferrari. But look, you know, in the general point of whether some of these names, like the ones that I'm not going to repeat that you suggested in the monologue, look, some of those things, times have changed, they are offensive.
But one of them was about a dog, but it was literally about a greyhound dog.
Right, but you just know that is going to be a point of amusement, a point of horror, maybe a point of offence for people.
Oh, please!
Can I just say one of them they wanted to change?
20 years ago, in the 70s, there were, you know, people blackfacing on Saturday night telly, and
that's not what this pub is. Can I also just raise another point? There were a couple of other pubs that fell under scrutiny recently. The Fighting Cocks. Right, PETA, the animal rights organisation, wanted to change those names because it gave it promoted animal cruelty, supposedly. Apparently, they wanted to change it to the Happy Hens. And then there's also a pub now. I think it was called the Sly Fox, which apparently gave a negative portrayal of foxes. Well, let me tell you what, the foxes that are rampant in more ways than one outside my flat every night, they're certainly not sly. They're not behind the door. So, you know, this is the kind of level that we're at, right? People trying it on.
I mean, it's just silly, isn't it? And, you know, I think you make a good point, Patrick, that actually what these organisations do, whether it's PETA or, religious groups or whatever, they basically flood media organisations, they flood pubs, they flood any kind of organisation they want to target. They flood them with this kind of bureaucracy. They bombard them with like a social media campaign, then they throw legal letters into the mix, and they make it so difficult that in the end people just cave in because nobody has the capacity to be able to fight these things, and that's how they win.
The Magic Midget, apparently there was a petition there from a lady who is a professor at a university in Liverpool that, I'll be honest with you, I'd never heard of, who happens to have a disability herself in the Height Department, and there was a petition that got something like 1,300 signatures. Well, that's it. I wonder how many of those people are living in the area. Oh, we changed the name of the Magic Midget.
There was a counter petition. There was a counter petition that gained more signatures.
Well,
this is the point. Actually, most people disagree with these things.
Yeah.
If you criticise multiculturalism now and integration, it's seen as heresy by the political and cultural elites. You know, you're immediately slated as a racist and a bigot and xenophobic, and your opinion is not supposed to count anymore. We have to criticise this. We cannot change our way of life because of one culture.
But nobody is doing that.
Yes, they are. We have changed.
It's just nonsense.
Everything that Patrick has just listed, we have changed the way we live, the way we speak and the things we do to accommodate people and cultures who are offended.
No, the whole country is not being changed for the sake of one person. This guy is not going to get anywhere. In fact, the country convicted him of terrorism.
He would have done if the Sun had not taken up the story. He would have got the money.
It is not right. 60 years after HMS Windrush, Britain has been multicultural and multi-ethnic for a very long time. We went out to the world and exported ours and then invited them back. Britain is so much richer for having this variety.
This is
the
not
whole
true.
world envies
We allow
Britain's
segregated communities to behave in ways that run contrary to our values in this country.
One thing I will say, and by the way, and I am not just saying this, by the way, I do suspect that there are huge chunks of the British Muslim community who also think this guy's taking the absolute.
Yeah, absolutely. They really do.
And actually, it is people like this that then lead to problems for other people who don't deserve any problems. But, this is obviously an issue for this chap involved. In a statement to the Sun, can I just say, what I'm about to read you now is hilarious, right? So this is his statement to the Sun. Backer says, "I've always been offended by pub names like these, but I've only recently discovered how I can challenge them online. You ready? I've stopped all the terrorism stuff now." That's behind me, that. No, it was a fact. Face. Stop.
Well, I'm reassured. I don't know about you. I'm reassured.
I tell you what, I for one, I'm almost on his side. No, I'm not.